At 7:18 on a Wednesday morning, Daniel opens his banking app before he even gets out of bed. His paycheck arrived overnight. He sees $4,860. For about 3 seconds, he feels rich. Then the mortgage comes out, the car payment, insurance, daycare, a credit card payment he barely remembers making. By 7:21, the number is already below $2,000. Across town, Maya earns almost exactly the same salary. She has the same kind of apartment, a similar car, and roughly the same monthly expenses. But when her paycheck arrives, something different happens. She doesn't ask, "How much money do I have?" She asks, "How much of this paycheck is already working for me?" That question has quietly created a financial gap between people who look almost identical on paper. And here's the uncomfortable part. You can earn more money every year and still become financially weaker. You can get a raise and have less freedom. You can have a 6-figure salary and still be one broken water heater away from using your credit card, because income tells you how much money enters your life. It does not tell you how much control you have over your life. And today, we're going to look at the difference between those two numbers and the surprisingly simple system that can turn an ordinary paycheck into something much more powerful. Let's start with a number most people obsess over: salary. In the United States and Canada, salary is treated almost like a scoreboard. Someone makes $60,000. Someone makes $100,000. Someone makes $200,000. And the assumption is obvious. The person with the bigger number must be doing better. But salary is only the first layer. Imagine 2 people each earning $100,000 a year. Person A spends almost everything that comes in. Person B spends $70,000 and automatically directs the remaining $30,000 toward investments, retirement accounts, and debt reduction. After taxes and normal living costs, their lifestyles may look remarkably similar. But their financial trajectories are completely different. One person is repeatedly exchanging labor for money. The other is gradually building assets that can produce money without another hour of work. That distinction is the foundation of financial independence, and you don't need to be wealthy to understand it. You just need to stop measuring your financial life with one number. Here's a better way to think about it. Your financial life has 3 moving parts: what you earn, what you keep, and what the money you keep eventually produces. Most people spend their entire financial lives focusing on the first one. They negotiate a raise, change jobs, work overtime, start a side hustle. Then 6 months later, the new income has somehow disappeared into a larger apartment, a newer car, more subscriptions, more travel, and a lifestyle that now requires the higher salary just to maintain itself. This is lifestyle inflation. And it is dangerous because it doesn't feel dangerous. Nobody wakes up and says, "Today, I'm going to become financially dependent on my next raise." It happens one upgrade at a time. A $300 higher car payment doesn't feel enormous. Neither does another $200 a month in housing, or $100 for subscriptions and services. But stack enough small decisions together, and your future paycheck becomes responsible for your present lifestyle. That's why one of the most valuable financial numbers isn't your salary. It's your savings rate. If you bring home $6,000 a month and invest $600, you're saving 10%. If someone else brings home $10,000 and invests $500, they're saving 5%. The higher earner may look more successful, but the first person is actually converting a larger portion of their income into future freedom. And this is where compounding becomes interesting. Suppose you invest $500 every month and earn an average 7% annual return over the long term. After 20 years, you've contributed $120,000, but the account could grow to roughly $260,000. The difference isn't because you worked twice as hard, it's because your earlier dollars had time to create additional dollars. That's the part people underestimate. Compounding isn't really about investment returns, it's about time. A dollar invested at 25 has decades to work. A dollar invested at 55 has far less runway, which means waiting until you make enough can become an expensive decision. But there's another mistake people make. They think investing means finding the perfect stock. It usually doesn't. For most ordinary workers, the biggest advantage isn't predicting which company will explode next. It's consistency. A diversified, low-cost investment strategy held for years can be far more important than trying to guess the market's next move. And fees matter here more than they appear to. If two investments earn similar gross returns, but one charges substantially higher fees every year, that seemingly tiny difference compounds against you. You don't feel a 1% fee every Tuesday. You feel it decades later when the balance is smaller than it could have been. That's why your investment account deserves the same attention as your checking account. Not every day, but at least occasionally. Know what you're invested in. Know what you're paying. Know whether your employer offers a retirement match. And most importantly, know whether you're actually taking advantage of it. Because an employer match is one of the rare financial benefits that can resemble an immediate return on your contribution. If your employer matches part of what you contribute and you're contributing below the amount required to receive the full match, you're potentially leaving part of your compensation unused. That's not an investment trick. It's simply checking whether you're collecting money that's already part of your benefits package. Now let's talk about debt, because investing while carrying expensive consumer debt can create a strange illusion of progress. You might see your investment account growing by 8%, while your credit card balance is charging a much higher interest rate. The numbers can look sophisticated. The math isn't. High interest debt compounds against you. Investments potentially compound for you. Your first job isn't necessarily to maximize every investment opportunity. It's to stop the financial leaks that are guaranteed to work against you. And this leads to something even more important, an emergency fund. People often ask how much they should have. There isn't one magical number. A better starting point is to calculate your essential monthly expenses: housing, food, utilities, insurance, transportation, minimum debt payments. Then build a cash reserve based on how stable your income actually is. Someone with a highly predictable job and strong family support may need a different cushion than someone whose income changes every month. The purpose isn't to make your savings account look impressive. The purpose is to prevent a bad month from becoming expensive debt. Because financial security isn't about never having emergencies. It's about making emergencies boring. Your car breaks. You pay for it. Your furnace dies. You replace it. Your employer cuts your hours. You have time to react. That's what cash reserves actually buy: time. And time is one of the most valuable assets money can purchase. Now go back to Daniel. His salary wasn't the problem. He wasn't irresponsible. He wasn't wasting money on luxury vacations every month. His problem was that every dollar already had a destination before it arrived. His paycheck was fully committed, so he changed one thing. Instead of asking what he could afford after spending, he started deciding what he would save before spending. On payday, an automatic transfer moved money into his investment account before he saw it in checking. Then he built his lifestyle around what remained. It wasn't dramatic. There was no overnight transformation. His account didn't suddenly become enormous, but 6 months later, something important had changed. Saving was no longer a decision he had to make every month. It had become infrastructure. And that's the real lesson. Good financial systems reduce the number of financial decisions you have to make. You don't want to rely on motivation every payday. You want automation. You don't want to remember every bill. You want systems. You don't want to constantly ask whether you're disciplined enough to invest. You want the investment to happen before your spending habits get a vote. And there is one final number worth calculating, not your salary, not your investment balance, your monthly essential spending. Because imagine you currently need $4,000 a month to live. Then over several years, you build investments and other assets capable of generating $1,000 a month on average. You haven't replaced your salary, but you've reduced the amount of income your life requires from your job by 25%. That is real progress. Eventually, the goal isn't necessarily to become a millionaire. The goal is to create options. The option to leave a terrible job. The option to take 6 months off. The option to work fewer hours. The option to help your parents. The option to say no without immediately wondering how the mortgage gets paid. Money becomes powerful when it gives you choices. So, tonight, don't open your investment account just to stare at the balance. Open it and answer 5 questions. How much am I actually saving? What percentage of my income is going toward my future? Am I receiving the full employer match? How much high-interest debt am I carrying? And if my paycheck stopped tomorrow, how many months could I operate without borrowing? Those 5 answers will tell you far more about your financial health than your salary ever could. Because the person earning more isn't automatically winning. The person with the bigger portfolio isn't automatically winning either. The real advantage belongs to the person who consistently turns today's income into tomorrow's options. And that process doesn't require a perfect salary. It doesn't require perfect timing. It doesn't require knowing what the market will do next year. It starts with one paycheck, then another, and eventually the money you once worked for starts working alongside you.